So next speaker is Robert Haines, and he's going to talk about integrating Taverna player into Scratchpads.
Thank you. Right, you can hear me? Good. Right, so yes, I'm Rob Haines. I work in the University of Manchester with Carol Goebel, and this is a short project, well, sort of really, actually just a couple of hackathons that we did with the Natural History Museum in the UK. So I should probably start off by telling you a bit about the two things that we actually integrated, and then why we did it, and then how we did it. Scratchpads developed in the Vibrant project and Taverna Player developed in the Biovel project, and they're both European funded projects. So I'll probably refer to Scratchpads, Vibrant, Taverna Player, Biovel sort of randomly as we go. So what are Scratchpads? So they're virtual research environments, hosted websites for biodiversity data. They're a research and publication platform. And they're very similar to, I think, probably what, if anyone saw the triple presentation yesterday, it's very similar to that. There's some curated data and analysis in there. And the code and the so on is all completely open access and open source. Very flexible, very modular system. So their concept is that they hold your data for you and your community, and that community might be like one person, or it might be like, you know, thousands. It's pretty wide ranging. So you fire your data up into the Scratchpads, you and can do all kinds of useful things with external data and services, and then get results back into Scratchpads for further analysis. And kind of what we've done with the Taverna Player thing is add another sort of external data and service to that. So in a sort of techie sort of file format type view, you know, it sucks lots of different things in, most commonly Excel files of things like taxonomic occurrence data and things like that, and it can file lots of things out, and its publishing element is directly into Pensoft, if anyone knows about that. So it's built on Drupal. It has a big load of custom modules that they've developed in the Scratchpads project, and combines those with lots of standard contributed models as well. There's over 500 sites now running within the Scratchpads system. And they managed to host all that on just a couple of application servers with some database replication and a search server. So that's Scratchpads. Taverna is a scientific workflow management system. Some of you will know about it and some not, but it basically comes in three major flavors. There's the Workbench, which is a desktop application, with a GUI and plugin system and all that sort of thing, and that's where you'd design your workflows in Taverna. There's a command line tool, which is good for batch processing. There's a server, which is full multi-user, full security, authentication, secure separation of workflow runs, and has a REST and SOAP interface to control that. So Taverna Player. So this is something that we've developed to sit outside the core Taverna product, but sit inside things like web portals and things like that. So it's a Ruby on Rails plugin, so it doesn't stand on its own. It does need to have a host application, and it uses as much of the host application as it can. So if you've got a workflow model already in your application, then it can hook into that, and you just need to provide a couple of little hooks for Taverna Player to sort of interpret that. It's quite lightweight, and it'll obviously just sit behind your authentication authorization system. We don't get in the way there, and it also provides its own REST service as generally most Rails Ruby on Rails applications can, if you wish, and to actually do the workflow running, as it were, it uses Taverna Server. So it talks to the Taverna Server REST interface, does things like upload the workflow and set the inputs, and if there are any workflow interactions in the particular workflow that you're running. They'll be passed on to the user so they can fill those in. And it then takes care of all the monitoring when the run's finished and grabbing the results back and logs and provenance data and that sort of thing. So it provides access to a workflow run, if you like, in three ways. There's the obvious, if it's in a sort of Ruby on Rails application, which is that it's there in the application, in the web interface, in the browser. It's also possible to embed a workflow run in another web page, much like you would a YouTube video. So if you imagine when you're embedding a YouTube video, the video stays in the YouTube site, and you just have a little frame in your web page, and you've got all the controls to start and stop the video. So that's exactly sort of how we do that with the embeddable widgets with Taverna Player. And also, as I said, it's a web service in itself, so it can be controlled through a REST interface as well. The nice thing about dropping it into your already existing Ruby on Rails application is that because of Rails hierarchical layers and views, it just kind of looks like you'd expect it to look in your application. So there's not too much to do there. So how does this look sort of architecturally? Well, we've done some work to make sure that if you've got multiple workflows running, we keep them completely separate within Taverna Player using workers, so that occasionally a workflow will maybe use too much memory and crash something, or the inputs will be bad and do something horrible. So we keep all the individual runs completely separate with a set of workers that just manage one workflow at a time. So this keeps all the users separated in your portal. The state of the run is passed via the host application's database, which is what the Rails application will be using anyway. So that allows the interface to asynchronously update the user in the web interface. And this is nice for scaling, because if we suddenly want to run a load more workflows, say if we've got a workshop running, we just fire up another Taverna server and another set of workers which are set to talk to that Taverna server. And we can just keep going with that however much we want. So in terms of the Taverna ecosystem, if you like, all in all, the engine is what runs the workflows in all cases. The workbench and the command line tool are sort of the first class citizens above that. The Taverna server actually uses the command line tool underneath, and Taverna Player uses Taverna server. So we're sort of at each step we're sort of increasing the usability of the interface and making it more human compatible, if you like. And Taverna Player is at the top of that stack at the moment. So as I said, it's Ruby on Rails. The plugin is working and deployed and released for version 3.2. We're testing with the 4 branch at the moment. And we use a standard queuing library for managing the workers. So we're not sort of re-implementing anything there. So we use delayed job, and you just start as many workers as your Taverna server capacity can cope with, and as I say, you just start up more Taverna servers and more workers if you need to. And the Bioval project have used Taverna Player in their portal. Effectively, it's a Rails app. It has Taverna Player in it, talks to Taverna server. The user's web browser either has a view on the entire portal, or maybe it's got a view on an embedded workflow, depending on which page they're looking at. So that's just the front page. There's a YouTube video. You can see some of the Bioval scientists using it. It's actually built on the Seek platform, and Carol will be talking about Seek at 2 o'clock this afternoon. So more on that then. So why have we done this? Obviously, joining communities is a good thing, and this is 2 biodiversity communities which are pretty compatible. So to me, that's sort of a tick box. But really, in terms of the real value that the guys in the projects get, is that the Bioval portal for Bioval scientists is great for their day job. There's good collaboration for other people within the project, but it's not quite so easy to sort of disseminate because it's a sort of a closed system which requires sort of a username and password to use it. So Scratchpads is much better at dissemination, so people can make little focused sites but still use the tools. So how did we do it? So the lightweight embedding is pretty easy. We used that embedding like the YouTube style that I mentioned. Scratchpad's got some updates to expose some of its public data as CSV, so the workflows could pull that in. But basically all the results just stay in Taverna Player, the host application. Embedding is literally just chucking a bit of HTML, the iframe in there, and it's that simple. You can pass in some default values for inputs if you like. So there's an example of the ANT key Scratchpad. It's got some taxa there. You can burrow down to the right one. You get to the one you want to get to know about, and there you've got a workflow running on that particular species data. That's a bit of a closer view there. So that was an ant, which is common in Madagascar, I guess, for that one. So the tighter integration was using the REST interface of Taverna Player. So Scratchpads is directly talking to it. It already had an off-site computation module, so we just, for large-scale batch operations, so we just sort of requisitioned that and made a few changes. That bit of the diagram you've seen before, but and this is how Scratchpad sort of works there. So the control from the Scratchpads is going into the Bivol portal with the player in it, and then when its workflow needs the data, it's pulled straight from the Scratchpads. So all the authentication is done completely securely with a special Scratchpads user for each one that needs it. It does all the usual setting up and retrieving results which Taverna Player does anyway. This is particularly better suited to long-running workflows and larger repeated studies of the people will be doing. So just a quick sort of run through as I mentioned before, the data and analysis in Scratchpads is quite well curated in the sense that the public, without a login, can go in, just see everything, but to actually use resources and to change resources, we have to be a member. So in this case, I'm logged in as a member of this Scratchpad. I'm going to create a workflow run. It's created. It's started to run. There's an interaction. I'm going to draw a polygon around some species occurrence in Europe there, and when it's finished, I'm presented with the outputs, and it's not done quite yet, but the next step is to be able to then re-ingest those inputs directly back into the Scratchpad so they can do further analysis and visualization within the Scratchpads itself. So comparison of the two types of integration. With the lightweight embedding, it'll be a specified workflow chosen by one of the Scratchpads admins, whereas in the tight integration, it'll show you all the workflows that you might have access to for that particular Scratchpad. The results are not stored in the Scratchpads itself in the lightweight embedding, and the workflow will still kind of look a bit like the host application look and feel, because remember, it's just in a window to the original host app. Whereas on the tight integration side, the results will be available for further analysis, and it's totally part of the Scratchpad site as a whole. But in common to both of these things, the workflows are always running Taverna Player. The interactions are always available if they're there, and you can get at the results. So even if you're on the lightweight embedding, there is a opportunity to download the results when it's done. So that's all I had to say about that. If you'd like any more information about Taverna or Taverna Player, then my details there. And the Scratchpads guys, Simon Rycroft at the Natural History Museum is always willing to talk. So, and funding information there for Bivol and Vibrant as well. I ought to get that in as well. Okay, thank you very much.
So there's time for one question. I have a question.
Sorry, Raul.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I ask a question first?
Yep.
You have to walk up. I was just curious if you had any like general thoughts about integrating multiple tools like this. Like, are there anything you can take from this as advice? Is it just literally hacking a bunch of stuff together, or like, I mean, you did a lot of like integration in little parts. So I just wonder if you have like more general sort of suggestions about when you want to take two big tool bases and put them together. If there's any learnings you got from it.
Yeah, sure. Well, one thing that's, I mean, I suppose it could be obvious, but I'll say it anyway, is that standards. So we sort of developed everything here with using things like the REST interface and HTTP protocols and all that sort of thing, and that makes it easy straight away. So I think, I mean, off the top of my head, we didn't have any problems with this at all, because it was all, you know, I mean, those guys are using Drupal, and that's got loads of stuff to be able to talk REST, and we were using REST and Rails, and so using the frameworks, using the standards, don't fight them. I think that's where you get most joy there. Yeah.